What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So, I don't think people realize just how close former President Trump came to being out of here on Saturday, this past Saturday. I don't think they realize how close he came to being out of here. And to be honest with you, look, I know we all can believe in what we want to believe in, but you know, when you really look at the whole situation, I know some people say that this was staged. You have some comedians saying that. When you really use your common sense and really stop looking at this from a point of partisanship and from a point of favoritism, because I suspect a lot of people who are doing that are really Biden supporters, and they just don't want to look at it as anything other than they're not using their logic in this situation. Um, Look, I believe that there have been a lot of false flag operations conducted by our government. But this situation, your common sense should tell you, if anything, this was, I'll just say it screams setup. Okay. I'll get to that in a moment. But I don't think people realize just how close the former president came to getting Kennedy. Um, so as we know, in Butler, Pennsylvania, he was at a campaign rally, and the initial report said that he was injured by glass, but apparently, uh, what happened is that a bullet nicked his ear, took off part of his ear. And when you look at, because I watched it, the video, and I thought to myself then, I think I said it in the first video I did. I said, you know what? Had he not turned his head at that exact precise moment, he wouldn't be here. And something horrible would have been, I'm not laughing at it, but something horrible would have been captured on camera. Okay. It would have been akin to what happened to Kennedy. Okay. So this is something, those who have studied the video and those who have looked at the film and studied the trajectory of the bullet have come up with a diagram. Now, I don't want to show the actual video because I don't have the rights to that, but I took screenshots. And this is how apparently the hitter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, had Trump lined up when he was in the prone position about to take the shot. Let's see if I can pull that up here. That is how he had Trump lined up. Clearly, had Donald Trump stayed in that position, he would not be here. Obviously, he would have been taken out immediately. So he actually had the former president in a fatal shot position. He had him lined up for what would have been um, um, I think had that occurred, we would be in a situation right now where possibly our democratic processes would have broken down. See, remember, Kennedy was a very popular president. At that time his approval rating was down, but he still had an approval rating close to 60%. I think it was 56% at that time. But this is a president whose approval rating for most of his term was in 70 to 80% range. Kennedy was beloved. So, with a very few exception of some right wing, um, you know, war hawk conservatives, Kennedy's assassination galvanized a unifying effect in the country. Donald Trump is a very divisive figure, and his supporters are very passionate as far as their support toward him. His detractors, many of them hate him. His demise, if that had happened, I think it would have put this country in I think it would have put us in the worst position than even in 1960. I think it would have been akin to something like what we saw at the beginning of the Civil War. I'm not saying we would have been in the streets fighting like that or nothing like that, but it would have been bad, man. I don't want to really talk too much about what I feel, but I think there would have been a lot of isolated incidences of violence springing up in this country. Many different incidences. And then that would have led to counter assault. It would have been bad, man. It would have been really, really, really bad. So, yeah, he had them in his sights. So what happened? Well, at the very last split second, Donald Trump tilted his head. Try to get the right one. I think this is the right one. He tilted his head so that when the hitter took his shot, that's what happened. As we all saw, he grabbed his ear. A little portion of his ear was blown off. But I mean, I think most people would take a portion of their ear blown off rather than the side of their head. Okay. That tilt to the what would that be? Tilt to his left, I guess. That slight head tilt to his left, that slight turn. Cause I think he was looking at the teleprompter about talking about immigration or whatever the hell it was. That saved his life. And usually they say that he does that later on in his speech. But something, whatever the case may be, he did it earlier. Had he not turned his head at that split second, because apparently, the guy had him in his sights. He had him in that position, So that was a very, very fortunate piece of luck. I know some people are looking at it from a religious standpoint. I look at it as, just luck. Also, I don't know if this has been reported, but according to new reports, most of the personnel at that rally were not even real or regular Secret Service agents. These were, they weren't certified Secret Service. They were, what's the term that I think I read to use? They were authorized security personnel, but they weren't actual Secret Service agents. Now, look, man, something ain't right with this, okay? Something ain't right. Something ain't right. That's all I'm going to say about that. Something is not right in this scenario. For an hour, up to an hour before the incident, they were receiving warnings of a suspicious person. Spectators are screaming at officials that this guy is climbing the roof, and they're saying, don't worry about it. There are agents, supposedly agents stationed in that building where he climbed the roof, and no action is being taken. And they wait until the guy engages in fire to finally take him out. I'm just gonna say it's very iffy. It's very, very iffy, man. You guys do your own conclusions. And let me say this too, because I've been seeing this a little bit. I noticed that a lot of people don't want this reported, or they kind of seem like they want me to ignore this because they're looking at it through a political lens. Like, oh, this is helping him. Y'all need to stop reporting this. Stop talking about this. Are you a Republican? This is an attempted, this was an attempt on the life of a president. Okay? I know you guys like to hear me talk about stuff like how many points Bronny James had last night. What some bum like Jeff Teague, I did a video about it, but what some bum thinks about a superstar player. Okay, I know that's so important to your actual everyday life, and it is somewhat important. But I'm going to talk about things like this because they're historically important. And you guys know I have a history of talking about politics. You know I'm a historian. So don't get in my case about talking about this, because now you're sounding stupid. And I don't care what your politics are. I don't care if you perceive me to be this, that, and the other. I don't give a fuck, okay? If you don't fuck with me because you don't like my politics or whatever, I could care less. That means you really weren't cool with me from the get-go. So I just wanted to put that out there. Tell me what you guys think.